veterans. You served your country honorably once while you wore the cloth of our nation. We are asking you to wear it again proudly as a member of the American Legion of Oklahoma. The American Legion is part of the nation's largest and most influential network of veterans, families, and communities, from budget hearings to baseball diamonds, from combat outposts to children's hospitals. Together, we make a difference. The American Legion provides life-changing assistance and guidance for veterans, military personnel, their families, and communities in thousands of ways each and every day around the world. Help comes in the form of personal assistance, cash grants, donated goods, disaster relief, labor, networking, volunteerism, and advocacy. The American Legion is for God and country, but the American Legion is also for you. Please contact a local post today.
Hey, Tokelahoma, this is Tracy.
And Larry Reed, the man on weed. And here we are on Tokelahoma on November 3rd? 4th. Which is kind of a unique day here. We're here with, hopefully, the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, Natalie Bruno. Good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me on, guys.
It's absolutely a pleasure. And so we're kind of humbled. I don't know what to say. If you could have heard the conversation that was going on before, because it's such an array of different things, of changing of paradigms out there, of the whole political structure and what's going on out there. I'm a libertarian for a long time. Every time I hear more about Natalie, all your rights all the time, things like that are igniting it. I don't know if you all out there watch the most dynamic guy we've got in politics in the entire nation going on over there. Hopefully the next president of the United States, Mr. Spike Cohen over there. That goes on in there, which you had axe throwing, right? Is that coming up? Is that yet?
No, so that was actually passed. So it was about 2 weeks ago. It was really fantastic. It was what I was calling our kickoff weekend. So Spike Cohen flew in from South Carolina, and then Larry Sharp, who is also, a very well-known libertarian. He has a podcast, and he's ran for governor of New York, and he may or may not be doing a gig, and he hasn't announced officially yet, but we'll see. But he came in, so we did axe throwing on Friday. That was a lot of fun, family friendly. And then on Saturday night, we actually had a lot of volunteers come to my house and made signs for the rally on Saturday. That was fun. And then we had the rally and then the formal dinner on Saturday night. And it was a jam-packed weekend of liberty, as cheesy as it sounds, but it was really great.
I didn't even know about it. I knew about it, but I didn't get the memo.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't.
We tried to get it out there as best as possible, but you know how it is sometimes. But I did save Spike's life on Sunday, though, which was fun.
You did?
Actually, and if you look at his Twitter, he even says, yes, it is true. She saved my life. So I was driving Tasha and Spike back to the airport on Sunday. And, the construction right now on Hefner Parkway,
everywhere.
Everywhere really is horrible. And so there is an on-ramp where there's no merge lane. It just comes right into the lane, and you have to watch for it. Well, there was a dump truck that was just hauling coming in. They were not going to slow down and stop. We were in traffic, so I had to use some defensive driving skills. Saw a small spot in the next lane, and I had to brake and then jump over right before the truck would have slammed into us. And it was definitely a funny thing that you would have seen in a scene of a movie, because we're all like, and so I get to tell everybody now, especially when he becomes president, that you were lucky I saved his life. Otherwise, he would not be here today. So
agreed. I love it.
That's it. The butterfly wings and that whole thing make the ripple across time. And it must be such an energizing thing to be part of the Libertarian Party today. Before it was, if you were going to run, the guy running for president is Dick Johnson, and it's let's get excited for Dick, and it's what, wait a second. Whereas so I don't usually watch too much politics and stuff like that. I can't stand it
because
government shouldn't be in our lives, so we shouldn't have to worry about it all the time, right?
Yes.
Right.
But local elections are important. I think the Libertarians have been focusing on the national election, and so I think now that we're focusing on the local politics, the local policies, getting out there in the communities, I think we're going to see a lot of movement for sure.
Absolutely, especially since, that's been a lot of things that people in general have been trying to push is, everybody wants to come out and vote for president, but in all honesty, the people who have the most say-so over your lives are actually local.
Yes.
And so concentrating on those races and stuff are imperative. And then actually, we were talking about this earlier, Tracy. So there were elections, obviously, that happened on Tuesday, across the nation. And we had over 150 new libertarians that were elected into positions across the United States.
We're coming for you. Little by little.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think that what's happening is, obviously the COVID-19 situation has been horrendous in so many ways. Yes. But the one positive, if there can be at least one positive that's come out of it, is the fact that people have opened their eyes to how important personal liberty is. And, having the government come in and say, you can't open your business, you can't open your business. Well, your business we don't feel like is essential enough, so you have to stay closed, or you have to put this in your body. Like, there's so many things now where people are actually taking the time to be like, hold up. Right. Why do you have authority over my body, or why do you have authority over my personal business? And
let's not forget, Governor Stitt did close down businesses. He did. He thought some businesses were non-essential, and he thought you feeding your family wasn't important. Libertarians don't do that, and that's why I'm going to vote for Natalie Bruno for governor, because she cares.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's I do so in the spectrum of politics, there's two stories in the truth, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of those kind of things, and with the mandates and all that stuff going on out there today, it must be kind of pretty hard to be in a political spectrum like that, because there's so many different. I'm a believer that no mandate. If you're a private owned business, you get to mandate whatever you want. It's a right to fire state, right? Yes. I mean, that's really...
Absolutely. And what I try to remind people is, if it wasn't an election year, it would not have become political. And I think that is the reason why it's turned into such a cluster, is because people were not able to, just like with any other previous issues, not saying that they're the same or equal, but we had bird flu, like all these different situations that have come up in the past. The politicians didn't try to use it as a political tool, so it enabled doctors and individuals to make choices for themselves on what they wanted to do or what they didn't want to do, and that was that. Had we done that this way, had we not turned it into a political statement where the Democrats were essentially saying, if you, don't do this, that means that you're, against the Democratic Party, or you're really a Republican if you don't believe A, B, and C, and the same thing for the Republican side. I literally know people that kind of maybe wanted to get the vaccine, but they felt like if they got the vaccine, then their family members would be like, oh, so you believe in COVID? And like, they've turned something that should have been an individual medical issue.
It's your decision,
into politics.
Your choice. Make what's best for you and your family, for everything. Yes. Don't let peer pressure of your auntie or your freaking grandma, oh, I wouldn't get that. She doesn't know what's best for your body in other ways. How does she know?
Exactly. And honestly, my family is divided. I've been vaccinated, and my 2 teenage daughters have been vaccinated because, I'm a cancer survivor, and between, stuff with my daughters, I gave them the choice. I educated them and let them pick. But my husband, he's fully healthy, and he chose not to get vaccinated, and we're not fighting about it. We are completely for, nobody can make a decision for yourself, whether it's COVID or whether it's cannabis or anything else, better than you as an individual. As long as your choice isn't affecting me, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's the Libertarian Party in a nutshell. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Natalie Bruno.
Oklahoma veterans, You served your country honorably once while you wore the cloth of our nation. We are asking you to wear it again proudly as a member of the American Legion of Oklahoma. The American Legion is part of the nation's largest and most influential network of veterans, families, and communities, from budget hearings to baseball diamonds, from combat outposts to children's hospitals. Together, we make a difference. The American Legion provides life-changing assistance and guidance for veterans, military personnel, their families, and communities in thousands of ways each and every day around the world. Help comes in the form of personal assistance, cash grants, donated goods, disaster relief, labor, networking, volunteerism, and advocacy. The American Legion is for God and country, but the American Legion is also for you. Please contact a local post today.
Hey, Tokelahoma, Tracy, and we're back.
Larry Reed's Man on Weed, and here we are. We're back with the hopeful next governor of the state of Oklahoma, Natalie Bruno, and with so many things to talk about, we're kind of breaking it down. One of the things that's really topical now is the ORCA petition. And so in the ORCA petition, there's a lot of things, whether we want, there's two sides of whether we want to put it in the Constitution, and everybody says yes in favor of the Constitution because it's set there, and then there's a crew that says no, not in the Constitution because it's too rigid and we won't be able to do with it. We can always deal with the legislators. So I'm just wondering, from the libertarian view that you have, how do you feel about the ORCA petition, whether you deal with legislators or how do you...
Yeah, no, that's fair. So I can honestly see the argument for both sides, but I personally believe the best action is legislators, they change frequently. And even though you might have a good set of legislators right now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be the case, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's important to make sure to put things in action that protect you long term, right? Mm-hmm. So especially when it comes to something like that. So I absolutely, support ORCA. Is there every single little thing exactly how we do? Probably not, but I do think that is moving more in the right direction than trying to deal with legislators directly.
Agreed. We've been talking to ORCA for a couple months, and I don't agree with everything that's in there, and I've been very vocal about that. But here's the thing: you have people. We, the people, have to be the voices. Okay, mm-hmm. The legislators are elected to continue our voice, but they're not our voices. And so when we're talking to people that the libertarians have ranked by scores, and you're talking to people who don't even really fully understand what the cannabis industry is, they're not going to fight for us. They don't care if you feed your family. We care if you feed your family. You care if you feed your family, your community. And so here's the thing: the cannabis community needs to fight for our freedom, and I think that's what ORCA is trying to do, and mm-hmm. we need your support. We need your help.
Absolutely. People have to realize too is, yes, we want cannabis to be able to be treated just like any other agricultural group and stuff like that, but they all have their groups also that help to represent them. Right. So this just helps to solidify the cannabis industry as a whole, yes, because of the fact that they would have something like ORCA.
Agreed. 100%.
Well, and so it's kind of different though, because there's not a department. One of the planks of the ORCA mm-hmm. is to create its own freestanding agency. Mm-hmm. And so there's not an agency for tomatoes, or there's not an agency for cantaloupes, even though I don't have cantaloupes around here. But
well, it's great. There is though. So there's a pork. Well, not cantaloupe. I don't know about cantaloupe specifically, but there's a pork council.
Well, there's a council. There's our industry PACs, mm-hmm. basically.
Right. Kind of, that educate and work towards, legislation and changes that affect those specific industries.
This is going to create its own freestanding, mm-hmm. because we have so many different spikes coming into the cannabis program, from the ag to the OBDND or whatever they call that, the
narcotics. Why are you messing with cannabis?
Yeah, that's
just saying.
It's all that. So how does
we need to educate them?
I guess it's always going to be a necessary evil,
right,
to have something along those lines like that. But
I'd rather it be a group than the government doing it.
Right. Well, this is the government.
Well, right, but it's put together
right? It's going to be focused
Yeah.
on the world of cannabis. And I think one of the good things is that they've put a check and a balance in there as far as the budget goes, that it hinges upon the amount of cannabis sales.
Right. I guess how I just specified it more was it's not the federal government coming down. This is something that we're putting together out of the best interest of ourselves.
Right.
Right. As a community that sees that the commerce needs to keep going.
Right.
We have tremendous opportunities in hemp. Besides, CBD products outsell THC products 6-1. So there's a tremendous ability to have hemp and everything that goes out there.
CBD is amazing. I feel like people think that cannabis is just something to get high, but cannabis saved my life, and CBD saves my life every single day. And you know what? THC makes my life easier. So because I'm an adult and I get to choose what I put in my body, I think that everyone should be able to choose that as adults. You shouldn't have to go just pay a license fee at the state because they said to, right? Hey, I want to smoke a blunt today. I'm going to go get my blunt at the dispensary. Oh, tomorrow I want to have a fifth of whiskey. Cool. That's it. That's all it is for me. You shouldn't have to go pay for a license just to use your cannabis. Don't agree with it.
Right. And so that's the thing in the Orca petition basically happens is that it's just a one button
right to
rule.
use.
It's just
21 and up.
Right. You have the medical card, you're in. If it doesn't, that goes that way.
The one thing though one thing that had been brought up to me when I had gone to Green Grow Fest is because I will say I do not use cannabis. Not because I wouldn't love to, it doesn't work with everybody, right? CBD is more of my alley. Just because of the way it reacts with my body. My husband, on the other hand, he does have a medical card and he utilizes. But one of the things that was brought up to me whenever I was talking to dispensary owners and everything was, okay, well, if we allow recreation, how that'll affect medical, and this basically involved it to a conversation where what I would love to see is you have it to where it's 21 and up, no problem, but then also have it to where if you have a medical card because you actually do need it as a medication, that you should be able to use your HSA card at a dispensary in order to purchase your medication, just like you can with any other medication. And other benefits like that, to where if you do have a medical card, you can treat it as a medicine and use it. Maybe eventually, whenever it's passed federally, we can even use it or actual as an actual prescribed medicine, and have to where you only pay a copay like I do with my others. Right.
And you know what? The VA is going to be the first one to get that. I have a feeling.
Oh,
I do, and it needs to happen. It needs to happen now. 100%.
That's and there's so many ins and outs and of the whole cannabis program here, because like you said, that's part of the stigma is that people want weed, just to get high and all that kind of stuff. But there's that CBD, and even if you have 0.03% is not really a high level. Even if you get into like 1%, you won't feel it, but the key that unlocks that entourage effects becomes so much greater that to keep regulating it like it is just kind of because it closes some people out because they just have that stigma of it getting high, and then there's no commerce in it, and there's all kinds of different, which is one of the great things about libertarian is we want to get rid of all the red tape and legislation, which is something that just happened this week. There was 2464 that just went through, a new House bill that went through that had something. It allowed dispensaries to roll their own pre-rolls and also growers to roll their own pre-rolls.
I saw that.
And then so they put it, but you can only do it to 1 gram.
I didn't see that part on there. That's kind of...
Why would you see that? I don't understand that.
Because they don't make sense. When the government does things, they don't make sense. And I'm here to tell you, I worked for the government for 11 years. They do things and they don't make sense. And we have to make sense of it. We, the people, because, you can grow your roll your pre-rolls, but only a gram.
Well, see, I think part of that has to do with, too, is education. So
yes.
whether that goes into, obviously, the apprehension that people have, thanks to, the failed drug war and everything like that. But then you also have situations where we have people that we've elected that are making these decisions that don't know anything about the industry, about the product. And so, like,
out of touch lawmakers.
Yeah. Like, so I will tell you right now, when I become governor, right?
Yes.
Am I an expert in every single field? Absolutely not.
No.
Right? But a good leader knows how to bring the right people into the room to help you make educated decisions.
Yes.
Okay. So you can very obviously tell, based off of that one point, that they obviously did not have real people in the industry working through them or working with them on these, like, the intricacies of these bills, because of stuff like that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. That's something that I would have probably done if I had no help, because like I said, I don't partake, and so I know nothing. So that sounds like something that I would have done with absolutely no buy-in or help from anybody. Yeah, this sounds good. I'm just going to write this down. But that's another very important thing about when we're voting for people. We need to pick people who are not just picking their friends and stuff like that to sit in positions and be on committees and stuff. You need people who are intelligent enough to know that they are not the smartest person in the room when it comes to certain things, and bringing in the people that will help you make good informed decisions and on policy or anything.
Good point. That's a really good point, because a lot of us know a lot of things, but you have to have the right people to make the team work. Mm-hmm. Just like in the military, you have your flight, you have your squadron, you have your group. You all do different things, and you all have to make the mission happen. I couldn't do everything in my job. I couldn't. Mm-hmm. I knew some people were better at some things to me, and if it was a money issue, I'm going to this person, right? Mm-hmm. If it's a cannabis issue, I'm going to this person. And here's the thing, is a gram to them might seem like a lot, mm-hmm. but to us, it's like a cigarette.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, why are you limiting it?
They don't have a clarification of if that includes the rolling paper and crutch, or whether that's just
product.
Right.
Yep. Leave the government out of it.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And so we'll get right back to more of leaving the government out of it in 1, 2, 3 minutes.
Hempire Genetics is an advanced research program set forth under the 2018 Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Pilot Program, overseen by Northwestern Oklahoma State University. A lot of farmers reach out to us. They've heard about what we're doing and are interested and want to know what they've had growing on their land since they were kids. Oklahoma is very diverse in its weather system, and so these plants have adapted over the last several hundred years to withstand that. A lot of it was brought here by the U.S. Department of the Interior back as part of Hemp for Victory. Hemp for Victory was brought about with the loom of the coming World War. We knew that we were going to have to produce a very large amount of hemp to rig the ships for their sailing, for their ropes, for their anchors, also clothing, sailors' hats, our flags, everything was made from hemp. Marijuana wasn't made illegal until 1969. The USCSA classed marijuana in with other dangerous narcotics such as heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. The campaign to slander cannabis began back in the 20s, mainly with William Randolph Hearst and the paper mills. Then that transgressed into big oil. Later in the 30s and 40s, really gained steam. By late 1937, the Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which grouped industrial hemp in with marijuana. After that, they gave the differentiated names, hemp, marijuana. While farmers were still allowed to grow, taxes were raised so heavily that it made it difficult, especially for lower income farmers. In 1940, when Hemp for Victory came to Oklahoma, they actually used Oklahoma as a test plot. Several genetics were shipped in from all around the world to see what would grow best on American soil, since Oklahoma has such a diverse climate. And it's very hard to find a lot of documentation on that. We know there was a lot of places, obviously, that were involved, or we wouldn't be finding cannabis in every county in Oklahoma. Hempire Genetics, sowing the seeds of the past to grow a better future for everyone. Visit us at HempireGenetics.com or on our social media pages at Hempire Genetics.
I need to know what's the ETA. I had to hustle, I don't know no easy way.
Larry Reed, the man on weed, and we are back. Tracy had a bivouac out of here. I don't know if they call that in the Air Force or anything like that.
I've never even heard of that term before. So
yeah, that's and so we're back with Natalie Bruno, hopefully the next governor of the state of Oklahoma. And one of the thoughts that I had on the way over here is that we become so used to the career politician out there, and they've been in it so long, they know how the years work, this, that, the other. I'm just wondering, like, when you win, how are you up for the challenge of being able to actually make the machine run? And like, how is your experience qualify you to take charge of a whole awesome state like this?
Absolutely. Well, that's a really good question. So one of the things that kind of come up frequently is kind of the experience people have leading into whenever they get into their first political positions. And most people, like Stitt is a great example. Stitt was not a politician. He just had a whole lot of money and could buy his votes. Yeah, well, right? Love it. So a lot of people realize, like, I actually have a lot more experience that would make me a fantastic leader of our state than most of politicians that come across typically do. So for the past 14 years, I've been in marketing and advertising. So when it comes to, selling ideas, making our state marketable, the perfect example. We have a situation right now where you go around and there's help wanted signs everywhere, right? Well, a lot of people think that that's because, we have a bunch of people laying around lazy, not working, when we actually have a fairly low unemployment rate. We just keep bringing in businesses and we don't have the manpower that's coming along and moving to our state. So it's like, okay, so how are we going to bring other qualified workforce into our state? Don't worry, I'm not going to draw from California. Don't worry. And everybody's always like, no more Californians. But, we need to, if we want to continue to prosper and grow, we have to bring in people too, right? So the marketing and advertising aspect of it, I am actually an award-winning leader. I've won awards in my leadership abilities with the nonprofits that I do. So I won the Judge Nan Patton Award for my service to children this last year, which was, a huge honor. And I've won multiple awards when it comes to just my leadership style in general. To be a successful leader, especially as being not the original two parties, but even with the two parties, you have to, at the end of the day, once you're elected, you have to be able to effectively work across, multiple political parties and in an effective manner to get stuff done. And I have 10 plus years of dealing with hundreds of employees or many employees across multiple cultural backgrounds, and being able to communicate with them in an effective manner that helps to get things done. So when it comes to, if I were elected, I'm not going to be filling seats of cabinets with people who are my buddies and not qualified for the job, or people I've made promises to get money, because in all actuality, winning the governor's seat is actually a pay cut to me. But I'm doing it because I want what's good for our state. So I don't need to have my pockets padded. I'm going to be putting people in the positions based off of them actually being the best person for the job, whether they're a libertarian, a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, because you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. So I feel that all of that experience that I have of understanding that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So surrounding myself with extremely knowledgeable people, who are the experts in their fields, and then having me be that voice between them and the voice of the people for what our state wants, not what the small percentage of legislators or people who have money want. And so I think that I'm going to do a fantastic job.
That's awesome. And so where has the campaign actually officially begun? Do they start the gun yet, or is there a Senate filing or something?
Yeah, so April, I believe it's April 13th through 15th. I'll have to double check those dates, but if it's off by like a day, is the official filing period. So anybody who has declared at this point, it's not official. That just means that we filed so that we can start collecting money and donations. But the official filing period is in April. So anybody who wants to run will file. Then there's a short period afterwards where they can basically combat if they feel like somebody doesn't meet the, requirements of, living in the state long enough, stuff like that. And then at that point, we'll go through the primaries, which would be in June, any runoffs that are necessary in July, and then we just sprint all the way to November when we have the election.
And it's almost like 365 days from today.
No, almost, yeah, because
right?
it's the 8th. Of November, and today's the 4th. So 369 days.
So there it is.
There we go.
And what's the best way that we can follow Natalie Bruno for governor?
Yes. Yes. So if the easiest thing is to just visit my website, which is electnataliebruno.com. It has all of my social media on there that you can just click and follow. So Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse. And then there's an issues page under there, so you can read about any of the issues that, if you're curious about where my stances are on certain things. Obviously, you could donate, which is always very much so needed. And then there's also a section under there for every single interview that I've ever done or a podcast. And so obviously I'll still this one and stick it on there as well. So you can hear my firsthand answers to different things that are important to people.
Which is super awesome. We're living in the age of being able to actually reach out and become engaged so much easier than it's ever been in the history of the world.
I agree.
And you can see that the big story, I guess, so I watched Spike yesterday on the Kennedy show, right?
Yes.
But it was 3 minutes, and I missed it, and I ended up in the conversation of them talking about school choice and things like that, which is a big thing that happens here in the state of Oklahoma, right? That just went on in there. And the thing that I saw about it was that it was really the parents becoming engaged. If you saw that piece, was the new special interest group is parents. That's the kind of thing like that. And so it's super awesome to just become engaged in that kind of. What kind of advice do you have for maybe some of the weeders that are watching this kind of stuff, like if they want to get involved and do things like that with the Libertarian Party?
Yeah, so visit oklp.org or even my website. I have a volunteer page, and I usually pretty much every time I'm like, hey, you also need to get involved with the OKLP. And I'll tell you what, one thing that I always like to explain to people, because I always think it's crazy that it seems like a fantasy about libertarianism, right? Which is just being like letting people run their own lives and common sense politics. And they're like, how dare you? That's so idealistic to think that common sense should work. What's going on? But there's a lot of belief that if you don't have an R or a D next to your name, that you can't make things happen, especially since we're in such a red state. And one thing that I always like to remind people, especially, for those of you that are involved with the cannabis industry, is we've been told over and over again, it is a red state. You're not going to get medical cannabis here. It's not going to happen. But because it was important to people and they banded together and they voted it in, it happened. So we can absolutely make an impact and make things change. If enough of us band together and say, no, enough is enough. We want change. We want things to be different. We want to run our own lives. We don't want to be micromanaged by the government. We can put our voices together in the form of votes and make it happen.
That's exactly the new House rules and all that are the new House rules and all that. There's sometimes even in the libertarian, my belief and all that is there needs to be some kind of tweakage sometimes for special things to take care of and all that stuff. And the one of the things that the dispensary, if they want to roll their own pre-rolls, is when they take the cannabis that's already been tested off their shelf, if they want to roll cannabis, their own cigarettes, is they have to have it retested.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
So the reason why I was told that it was needed to be retested was if there's mold or bacteria that's in that jar, it's going to get rolled and sold as joints. But if it's sitting in the jar and gets sold that way, how is it?
Okay, yeah. I was like, how is that matter? It would still be the same thing in the jar versus.
So they didn't really solve the issue, which is a definite issue. We don't want medicine out there to be having bacteria and things like that go on in it. But to just go and just to start using bubble gum and banding wire to try to fix things, it just creates its own incubator of another problem, and that's we end up in whack-a-mole politics.
Absolutely. That's one thing we always bring up a lot, is that you can tell so many of our laws were made just looking right in front of their eyes, like, oh, there's this one thing, so we're going to do this, instead of looking like, okay, but then how does this affect all these other things behind it, right? Especially when it comes to stuff like that, because I strongly believe in a lot of cases and not all the time, but free market kind of, takes care of things on its own. You know what I mean? If you have a company that's, always putting a good product and they're taking care of their stuff and not issues, like they're going to sell more. And if people are putting out stuff that, is not the case, they'll eventually dissipate.
In the state of Oklahoma, if you got moldy weed, everybody
Yeah,
knows you got moldy weed. Everybody knows you got moldy.
Buy it
They're
from
calling
you.
you out on the can of grudge.
Yeah.
They're taking you all over the place.
Exactly.
They're ready to rock your socks. Everybody knows it, which is the beauty of it. Like, we are such an example of how it should be everywhere.
Absolutely.
And that Orca is going to take us to that other thing, because we've got 400,000 patients, a little bit less. But there's got to be 1 million people that smoke weed in the state of Oklahoma. And so they're either incriminating themselves by doing it that way, and then they're mixing somebody else into the nefarious world of cannabis dealing on the side.
Well, there's just so many issues too, where we have situations where, like, and I know these types of people firsthand, where you have a couple, for example, that, they both want to smoke, but they both want a card because they still want to be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights and be able to purchase guns. Or, you have situations where there's certain jobs that are prohibiting you from even having a medical card. They just don't want to know about it, but you can't get a card. Like, there's just so many domino effect kind of situations that shouldn't even be an issue. It shouldn't even be a thing that affects a lot of this stuff.
Right. And so for that and so much more, definitely go follow Natalie Bruno over there. We'll get Zane on the 1s and 2s to throw us that link right down in there and all that, because I can't remember that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
remember. You say it a million times. Go ahead and tell us one more time.
ElectNatalieBruno.com.
Oh, that's easy. ElectNatalieBruno.com. I'll remember that one. And then the Instagram and all that, you got
it's all attached on there.
Right,
Just send to everybody there, and there's the links. Easy social media handles are across the top. All the information that you could possibly want on there. If you don't, I will say, if there's an issue that's important to you, there's a chat on the website, or there's an email on there. Message me, either myself or one of my volunteers will answer. We are not one of those people that are afraid to give you an answer because we don't think you're going to like what we say. We give answers to whatever, anything that's important to you. If you want to know what color my socks are, I don't see how it's relevant, but sure, you can know what color my socks are. I don't care. I'm not wearing socks though. I'm wearing slip-ons, just so you know.
Twice. Well, there you go. You can hop on the bus, Gus. You don't need a plan, Stan. You don't need a decoy, Roy, to set yourself free. Just jump on the libertarian bus, because we're going to leave away from all that government nonsense. We're going to go and join it's not a novelty. Like, we're just following basically. And if it wasn't you, it would be somebody else with the same principles, because that's what we're all about.
Absolutely.
Is principles over personalities. Yes. So you always get the same thing from us, and we're so grateful to have you on, Natalie. I look forward to.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going with this one, and if you got any questions for the next time, save them up. Maybe we'll have some audience participation, good stuff like that. So thanks again.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. On behalf of Tracy, Diane, who first Saturday of the month, definitely over at the VFW. Go over there, I believe, post 19. Go see Bert and the boys. Get yourself some pancakes. They're great, delicious. Have yourself a good time with that. And again, Zane on the 1s and 2s. Appreciate you so much. Jay Green Growth, thank you so much for using your facilities over there. Auto Media for all your cool tricks that you make, jiggies, and all that stuff. And I'm Larry Reed, the man on weed. Thanks to my mom and dad who made it all possible. Peace and chicken grease. Don't forget to smoke weed every day. And we are out of here. Peace.